Good morning.
Good morning.
Don't stop cutting. But I saw Cheryl looking at her watch. And congratulations, at 10 o'clock, I have been the only person in the room. And at 10 o'clock today, we had somebody at every table already cutting, so good for you.
Do you want
On the coldest month
back?
of the year.
No, the ones that.
Congratulations
Not bad.
and Happy New Year.
Thank you.
So don't stop cutting, but turn your ear my way, not your eyes. I don't want you to cut yourself. I'm afraid I did you a disservice when I failed to mention that Saturday, as in day before yesterday, was Flory Forley's birthday.
Yeah. 91.
Wasn't she 90 last year?
She's 91. 91.
91 this year. Yeah, she was 90 last year. So she turned 91 this year.
Yeah, yes.
So if you didn't, I'm sorry. It's not too late. She was overwhelmed last year. We met just before her birthday, and I had put it out that I think tomorrow is her birthday, and a whole bunch of us acknowledged it, and she was thrilled. So it's not too late to wish Flory Corley happy birthday. And I think I shared with you last month, I had a one-on-one conversation with Carolyn, and she's losing a little bit of ground. She isn't as well as she has been. So this takes special care to give her greetings this year.
Yes. Yes. The picture of her bulletin board, she appreciates it.
Good. Good. Well, bless you all for being here and cutting away. And I just realized that a significant portion of what I had been steamed off. So they didn't need cutting at all. And I hope they will accept those.
I think they will.
And I see Carol cutting off excess envelope that was on the back. So please do that as you come upon it. And some of these 1/4 inches look a little skimpy. So be careful, don't get them too tight. And I quilt, so I know a 1/4 inch in my sleeve. So May is coming. January came, whether we were ready for it or not. Was anybody else as shocked as me that? I mean, where has the year gone? Where did November and December go? So I give you permission to look up for just a minute. Because May is coming. And you know what May means?
Birthday celebration.
We're gonna need a whole bunch of these.
Okay.
So when things were too quiet after Christmas and everybody went home, I quietly went to the sewing machine and did this. Because I didn't, once upon a time, Mark came and the call went out, we need 8 quilts. By May, early May.
We
Oh
already
my
have 8
goodness.
babies. What? We already have 8 babies this year?
We have a lot.
I don't know, but
We
we
do.
have a bunch.
We do have a bunch
Yeah.
this year.
So I don't know if any of you all quilt, or if you know anybody that does.
Well,
We're gonna need a bunch. I think we have 3 left over. But I won't wait till March to mention it to you. Mark it down. This is
Janet-
January.
Janet Hubbard is in our church and she does a lot of quilting. Janet Hubbard. Janet Hubbard.
is she the one that plays
Well-
bell? Does she play bell?
I don't think.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. Carol
husband
is
is-
one that's made a lot of quilts for us.
Linda non.
She's in bells.
Yes.
Janet Hubbard does in quilting and still.
Well, Square's ready to put another one of these, and 2 like this is enough. So, and I have the materials to do one or two more. But I can't do all of them by myself like I did one year.
Well, you want me to call Janet? If I can call her about she could do some, but she.
Mention it, mention it.
Okay.
That
But she's
may
thinking that-
get here whether we're ready or not.
Well, when we were meeting in Circles in the Home, she attended some. She's got a home up in North Georgia. And she's here mostly on Sundays. So, I
Well,
think she,
May is coming. Speaking of May, let's go back to stamp ministry. We have this note from Steve Swain. Does anybody know Steve? You know Steve. Well, this is what Steve says. I routinely have access to stamps available at stamp collector shows. And from an insurance company's payments received processing.
Good.
I will bring those to the PW group when available. So pat Steve on the back and say, thank you, thank you, thank you.
who's been doing?
Steve Swain.
That's right. Carol, look at
Yeah.
this. That's a story.
I don't know either. He needs to be thanked though.
Yeah.
So if you know him and you see,
Put it
just
in
pat
there.
him back, say thank you, thank you.
Put it in there. Let them decide for sure. But I think.
And as you're busy cutting. My daughter's father-in-law is undergoing. Big time surgery that he is not really physically capable of. So. As you're cutting. His name is Jim. Say, Jim, we're thinking about you. Right. And there's a stamp on the floor under that tape. And I don't want to be the one to have to go get it. Somebody younger than me.
Yeah.
Speaking of May,
I just leave it like it is.
may I call to your attention that May will come, whether we're ready or not, like I said. And in May, my term of office will be over. So each of you needs to be prayerfully considering this position. It will be open. And I will say to you that though moderator will be open, as you can see, Fran Brailsford is not here and has missed a significant portion of this term. So if someone steps up and says, I will be the person moderator, I will say that I will be the right hand, left hand man. And help. And that can make a difference. Sign in. Sign in. Right here. And the room this was set up for Journey Sunday night. And I think that's what we're going to find from henceforth. The room's still set up for Journey for Sunday night. So we will be using these three front tables. And I know you well enough, if I left 8 chairs at a table, you'd all probably sit for him at that one table. So I moved enough chairs away so that there'd only be 5 of them. And about lunch. I did the best I could. But I made the soup yesterday and last night, and it had to cool in my pot. And in letting it sit and cool to go in the refrigerator, the pasta got too big, and I'm sorry. Just overlook it and eat it anyway. It is done. It's not too attractive, but it is done. and I did the best I could. So bless you all for being here. Cheryl?
Earlier, for everybody. Thank you, your daughter.
1/4 inch.
Yeah.
Okay, are you done? Good job, I'm done.
You say me for
Well. Speak up, no, you speak up. It's your turn now. Look there.
we have a good, Phil and I had a very good friend, and he actually spoke at Phil. His died in June. And there's a daughter and a son. The daughter lives in California, and on the 30th, her husband, literally, dead in the bedroom. She came from shopping, and she gets 3 small kids. They're adopted, and she just, she's just beyond it. And she has a family out there to support her, the dad's out.
Yeah. Bless her. Lori in California. Widow with 3 small children. Yeah. Definitely in need of our thoughts and prayers.
Think about the churchwide gathering.
I applaud you for the effort. There isn't one of us would or could, or really should. Yeah. Yeah.
Carol, we're getting
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nothing.
All right, Cheryl, it's your turn.
Okay.
We started today. It's just.
They can be like.
Well, good morning. Today we're talking about the 10
You're good.
lepers who came up to Jesus while he was traveling between Galilee and Samaria. So in this lesson, a Samaritan helps us recognize the holistic healing as well as systems that poison relationships and harm our sense of community. We're challenged to have faith in the miracle of Jesus healing a person with leprosy and healing our fixed ideas that limit life, discriminate, and isolate those we consider to be different. This was actually straight from our book, but I thought it was very good, so I wanted to utilize it. If you could just pause a minute and let's join me in the opening prayer. Bow our heads. Or look at the screen actually, or whatever.
It's a really good prayer.
This was written by Martin Luther. Behold, Lord, an empty vessel that needs to be filled. My Lord, fill it. I am weak in faith. Strengthen me. I am cold in love. Warm me and make me fervent. And my love may go out to my neighbor. I do not have a strong and firm faith. At times I doubt and am unable to trust you altogether. O Lord, help me. Strengthen my faith. Trust in you. In you I have sealed the treasure of all I have. I am poor. You are rich, and came to be merciful to me. I am a sinner. You are upright. With me there is an abundance of sin. In you is the fullness of righteousness. Therefore I will remain with you, of whom I can receive, but to whom I may not give. Amen. Now, the main idea that the author wanted us to be able to grasp is that Jesus challenges us to overcome our prejudices, embrace others, and invite them into the community of faith. And part of this introduction, she enclosed a poem, which I thought was really, really good. So I wanted to read that to you. Do you know what it is like to be an untouchable? To be so filthy and disgusting that people shrink away from you? Do you know how it corrodes your soul? To see how the stench that follows your rotting flesh contorts people's faces in disgust, even from miles away. I tell you, you die 1,000 deaths. Each time you see them, cover their faces to protect themselves from the putrid air that surrounds you, and they scurry away, revolted by your very shadow. Being a leper is the nightmare you can't easily shed. How unlike your body that easily sheds your fingers one by one. And then you hear of a healer, a Nazarene, a carpenter turned preacher who mingles with prostitutes, with tax collectors, society's untouchables. Outcasts like you. And you think, maybe, just maybe. There was silence as they all witnessed my rebirth. Finally, I look up to see the most compassionate face that I had ever seen in my life. I saw tears running down his face, and yet his smile rivaled the sun. And the next thing I knew, I was in his embrace, whole, body and soul, whole, all because he touched me. I thought that was a really powerful poem, and it really spoke to me as to what I understood that the lepers had to endure, the alienation and the aloneness, and it also helped me to be aware of others in our society that may be experiencing the same thing. So who would you say are today's lepers, metaphorically?
Maybe not so much today as in past. Anybody who had
AIDS.
here today.
Yes.
We have
I can remember the first time on TV when Princess Diane touched an AIDS, and that was such a big thing to help society know that it was okay. Harriet, you said something? Poor? Is that what you said? Oh, you did. Okay, sorry. The poor, definitely.
I think the drug addicts that live on the streets, because we know there are a lot of drug addicts that are out in homes. But those that I think it's the not knowing.
Right. Yeah, the
They're
drug
frightening.
addicts on the streets,
They're frightening.
definitely. Homeless veterans, yes. Yes. And also the mentally ill.
Oh, yeah.
Mixed race. Yes, a lot. I remember when I was first working that the idea that in one of my conferences to become more sensitive to all races, one talked about how even within the Black race, there is differentiation as to whether they're whole or and how Black they are. And I had never heard that before. I thought that was quite interesting. when I was reading this, I had happened to just see a movie that I would wholly recommend everyone to see in regards to, in my idea, reaching out to the disenfranchised. And it's called Music Within. And it is about, it's a true story. It's about the gentleman, Richard Pimentel, who basically fought to get ADA passed, the American Disabilities Act passed. And this came from him. Well, I'll read the little thing. It says,
Cheryl, excuse me, is it a docuseries?
no, it's a drama movie. It has, I don't know if y'all have seen the ads for Good and Evil. I think it was on Amazon Prime. But anyway, the gentleman, he's a very well-known British actor, but he maintains an American accent during this. He plays the disabled gentleman, and he does an astonishing job. But anyway, what the movie clip says, Richard Pimentel began his life as a fighter, and his life's work became fighting for the rights of others. After losing his hearing in Vietnam, he overcame his handicap and used his public speaking skills to inspire other war veterans. And it is to me, it's an exceptional movie, but it also helped me to see how easily it is for someone to experience isolation when they look different, when they act different through no fault of their own. So I would encourage you to watch that.
I saw a good movie too. and
You
I
did?
Can't remember the name of it, but it came on another channel that I don't usually watch. And it was, what's his name? Duvall?
Robert Duvall.
Robert Duvall was in it, and Earl Ray Jones.
Oh,
You know, the big guy.
The African-American
Big
guy.
African.
Darth Vader guy. James Earl Jones. Yes.
It was a very good movie. Come to find out that they were half brothers.
Oh, my gosh.
Okay.
And he visited him to find him and got included in his family
Oh, neat.
and found out that his mother was African American and all this, and it was just an interesting story and how they came together.
So the differences were able to come together.
Yeah,
That's interesting. So we'll have to look for that.
yeah.
Okay, the scripture for today is Luke 17:11-21. On the way to Jerusalem, Jesus was going through the region between Samaria and Galilee. As he entered a village, 10 lepers approached him. Keeping their distance, they called out, saying, "Jesus, Master, have mercy on us." When he saw them, he said, "Go and show yourselves to the priest." And as they went, they were made clean. I want to stop there and note a couple of things. First of all, they were abiding by the Jewish tradition of maintaining distance. And so they called out to him, but they didn't ask for healing. I thought that was very interesting. They specifically asked for mercy. Lord, have mercy on us. And, you know, I'm just wondering what they actually, you know, did they understand what they were asking? And then how Jesus responded, I thought was different than the typical also. He says, as opposed to, you know, your faith has made you well, or you are healed, or whatever, he says, go and show yourselves to the priest. I thought that was really interesting. And, you know, is that saying that they should understand, okay, if I'm supposed to show myself to the priest, then obviously I'm going to be healed? Is that an understanding or what? And the thing is, the next sentence says, and as they went, they were made clean.
They never even got there.
They never even got there, and they did. When he said go, they went. I thought that was, I just.
I did too. Sure.
Say, yeah.
Carol,
Say, what?
whole family thing, yeah.
Yes, that part of, they had to get, in a sense, a certificate of cleanness when they were able to be around people. So that is why he told them to go to the priest. So in a sense, he was maintaining the standards of society at that time to tell them to get their certificate of cleanness. But I just found it just so thrilling that all this either is just understood or whatever, that they did it.
When you said that about, have mercy on us instead of, will you please heal us? I thought, are they thinking they've done something wrong and they want it, whatever they've done, please forgive us. We didn't mean to do this.
Interesting you should say that. It was the understanding in the Jewish faith that someone that had leprosy, basically it seems like anyone that has anything, it was the understanding that it is because of something that they had done.
Like Job's friends.
Right, that
You've done something.
or their parents had done. This is a punishment. So in a sense, yes, the have mercy makes sense in that regard. So I'm wondering, are they just asking, when they ask for have mercy, are they just asking to be pardoned from their sin? Or were they actually asking to be healed? And I just also find it truly exciting that he says go and they go. So, the rest of this lesson is not going to give many kudos to the 9, but I say kudos to them in regards to, that they acted. And I think this is a lesson for us also, that we need to act on this and believe that this is going to happen. So, and as they went, they were made clean. Then one of them, when he saw he was healed, turned back, praising God with a loud voice. I love that Luke specifies with a loud voice. It's almost like he was embarrassed or something, this person, it's very irritating. He prostrated himself at Jesus's feet and thanked him. And he was a Samaritan. I love that Luke adds that feature. And that's another thing that we are focusing on today, that he was a Samaritan. Then Jesus asked, were not 10 made clean? But the other 9, where are they? Was none of them found to return and give praise to God except for the foreigner? And I love that too. It's like, this gentleman, this person of nationality that we despise so much is the one that comes back. So it's in a sense, it's assumed that the other 9 were probably Jewish, and in the fact that Jesus signifies the foreigner is the one that comes back. So the one that's not necessarily supposed to understand or know is the one that actually comes back and praises God. Then he said to him, get up and go on your way. Your faith has made you well. So now we get the standard of what we hear a lot. Your faith has made you well. Then once Jesus was asked by the Pharisees when the kingdom of God was coming, and he answered, the kingdom of God is not coming with things that can be observed, nor will they say, look, here it is, there it is. For in fact, the kingdom of God is among you. Now, leprosy was an extremely agonizing disease. And actually, there are still lepers today. But I understand that you probably know more about. They're antibiotic. Okay. So but there are still like colonies, that's the word I was looking for, colonies, leper colonies today. But as Jean pointed out, the leprosy was a disease that Jews supposed was inflicted as punishment for some particular sin. So the contemplation questions of today were: what illnesses or disease in our current culture can be compared to leprosy, and in what ways? HIV, definitely. Particularly what? In the 80s, definitely. HIV, AIDS, yes. E word. Cancer.
Doesn't it cause consumption at one time?
Yeah.
But the upshot of homelessness is smell and they're. We don't like. We're not comfortable
We want to look the other way from home.
of those who.
You were saying consumption, Carol?
Yeah, I thought that was cancer.
TB.
That's
Cancer?
TB.
That's TB.
Okay.
Well, and TB is still around today, but and there is, and like leprosy, there is good reason for some isolation, but be careful.
Yeah. And kept her there, she didn't have the hospital sleeping, so. Yeah. That's one of those can be repeated.
Oh, Teresa's father had TB and spent a year in the sanitarium in Black Mountain.
And my grandfather.
Helps.
Yeah, he had to put, his thought that fresh air and all of that stuff, they'll pulse surgery. Now and there.
Yeah, a lot of that. When I was traveling the United States, several of the places that we looked at, these resorts now that are like the place to go, were set aside as sanitariums for the TB patients because of the exceptional weather, the air quality and such.
Springs.
Every time I look at the signature, they texted him for TB.
I was tested, evidently something in the test causes me to react. So I have to get the chest, whenever I had to get tested, I had to get the chest x-ray as opposed to the test because I always tested positive for TB.
We had one that, and the project tested positive, we were afraid. Not that she had any symptoms. The leprosy colonies are the one in Hawaii, the India, China, and it's completely filled with spots.
Okay, that's good to know. That's good to know.
Yes, but.
And again,
With.
the other illness that I think of often, because it's dear to my heart, is mental illness, because especially those who have schizophrenia, because they tend to be scary to those who do not understand what is going on with them. And you think about also those who have like Tourette's and such, the startling noises and it can be embarrassing. And, there's just so many reasons why these people can be isolated in a way. So how does our faith inform our understanding about medical advances that cure disease? Not exactly sure what she was asking with this, but if you can decipher that. I'd be great.
Ask that again, Cheryl.
Okay, I'm gonna ask it again, see if you get. How does our faith inform our understanding about medical advances that cure diseases? I guess she's going after if it were a punishment from God. But I don't think that we see that as. Most of us. The intelligence that was there to get the background for the medicine is important to use that instead of like one goes to red snake handlers and all. Right. So our faith, in a sense, allows the understanding that these things can be gifts from God. The intelligence that someone comes to come up with these things, yes. So do you think someone can be healed through faith without medical intervention? Yes. Resounding yes. Have you or someone you know been healed without medical intervention?
Without medical,
Without medical intervention?
was healed with.
You were healed with. That is a gift, and I truly believe that is a gift, and a miracle.
They didn't really get medical attention. They had them around them and help them move forward.
Definitely, I like that. Yes, definitely.
Some people, children, they're fine to take their medicine, but if they don't, they usually go out. It's, you know,
It's a circle, definitely.
Carol, there was in Horizons magazine, one of them this year was an article on faith healing. And a woman whose husband had suffered depression for years and years came in, spring came in and did prayer, and he was healed. And she outlined a number of other things. People were skeptical that he was healed by prayer and not from the medication taken. He also talked about people who go through that experience and not healed. And what does that do for them?
Right.
And point out the one instance where Jesus said, you gotta do prayer and fasting to be able to heal. Yeah. So that puts us in a real hungry position.
Yes.
So you can heal. Are not healed.
Eve Cool and I used to have this discussion a lot. And for those who don't know Eve Cool, she has MS and is basically bound by a wheelchair. She and I would talk about, it's like, what are these people saying that we don't have enough faith to be healed? And sometimes we would get a bit angry about it. And but she is one of the strongest faith people I know. And for anyone to ever say that she doesn't have enough faith, it's just, it's sad. But
I think, no, don't you? I mean, I think sometimes when God doesn't heal us the way we think we should be healed,
Right.
you're a vessel for him to show other people, hey, you can get through these things. You may not live a normal life as we quote think normal is, but what an inspiration your courage and your strength can be to other people, even when you're not physically healed.
right. And I agree that I like how you said that we may not be healed the way we think we should be healed, but the healing can be in many other ways. I have a friend, his name is Bernie, and he's a paraplegic, but he is the most awesome person I have ever met. He's a chaplain at a hospital. And, how can you talk about, and get so down in the dumps about, a twitchy finger or something when you're talking to a gentleman who's living a full life as a quadriplegic. He is just the most generous person I've ever met. So I do agree that healing can be of various ways and understandings. So when we examine the characters that are introduced to this story, the one thing that was pointed out is Luke is the only writer of the Gospels that includes the healing of the 10 lepers. Also, it pointed out that Luke, the way he phrased these people, he didn't call them lepers, he called them men with leprosy. And the author pointed out, and I really liked that, that he didn't want their whole identity to be wrapped around the leprosy, that they have an identity outside of that, which is really cool, to think that someone in, the 1st century AD thought that way is pretty, I think, very exciting. And then, of course, you have Jesus. And then you have the 10 men with leprosy. The one who turned is identified as a Samaritan. Now, there's references to Samaria and Samaritans. They're concentrated in Luke and Acts. And John also does have some references to Samaritans. Embracing the Samaritan shows us what God wants from God's people: effective love for one's neighbor and sharing in the reign of God through Jesus. So I wanted to go in a little bit about why are the Samaritans such a despised group of people. So when Solomon died, he had these sons who basically caused an uprising in the country, and it split. And Rehoboam, one of the sons, he led the northern country, which became, they called it the Kingdom of Israel. And then you have the southern part, which is called the Kingdom of Judah. Now, Samaria was in the area of the tribe of Ephraim, who is one of Joseph's sons. I don't know if you remember that.
Manasseh and Ephraim.
Right. You have the tribes that are named after the sons, and Joseph didn't get a tribe named after him. He got his sons' names as the tribe names. Anyway, so eventually Samaria becomes the capital. Get up that high. As you can see where Samaria is, it ends up being, basically there's about a 30-mile difference between Samaria and Jerusalem. So it was very close, but they also were at odds, the northern and southern kingdom, quite often. And so it became the capital until the fall of Israel in 721 BC. So in 721 BC, the northern kingdom of Israel fell to the Assyrians. And many of the people of Israel, not all, but many, were exiled and led off to be Assyrian, to other areas of Assyria as captives. But some did remain in the land. And the thing is, they intermarried with foreigners that were planted there by Assyrians. So Assyria brought other people into the area, and they had mixed marriages. So already they're seen as, in a sense, being unclean to the Jewish people. So these half Jewish, half Gentile people, they become known as Samaritans. The Samaritans, being of mixed race already, then they start getting, as the people of Judah saw, spiritually corrupt, and pagan worshipers. But what happened is that they created a religion to themselves that the Jews considered heresy. Now you have to remember, being that they're of a different country now, they were not necessarily allowed to worship in the temple in Jerusalem. So in a sense, this is their way of making up for this. So they established as their center of worship a temple on Mount Gerizim. No, oh, well, I'm sorry, I don't have that one. Anyway, they claim this is where Moses had originally intended for the Israelites to worship. So they're claiming that Jerusalem is not where the temple should be. It should be on Mount Gerizim, according to their understanding of what Moses had intended. And they had their own unique version of the 5 books written by Moses, the Pentateuch, but rejected the writings of the prophets and other Jewish traditions. The Samaritans saw themselves as the true descendants of Israel and preservers of the true religion, while considering the Jerusalem temple and the Levitical priesthood illegitimate. So a major clash in regards to their understanding regarding faith. Now in 586, so about 150 years later, the southern kingdom fell to Babylonia. And once and for all, the walls of Jerusalem were breached, the temple was destroyed, and everything was torn down. This is when Babylon came in and exiled them. Now, the first time Samaritans are actually mentioned in the Bible is in Nehemiah and Ezra. And that's because in the 5th century BC, Nehemiah had basically curried favor with the king, and he asked if he could go back to Jerusalem and rebuild the temple. So he was given access to do this. However, the Samaritans at this point in time remained opposed to the temple ever being rebuilt. And so they were mentioned in Nehemiah in regards to their opposition to the temple being built. And this really finalized the hatred, the long hatred between Samaritans and Jews. Now, Samaria became part of basically when Rome came in, they incorporated all of that as one country again, and considered it Judea. So that's how it was accessible to walk back and forth from Galilee to Samaria again, in the fact that it was considered one country or one province in regards to Rome. So that's where this long-lasting hate comes from. And so you can almost understand it, because we still have those today. I think so much about the hatred between the Muslims and the Jews. A lot of their traditions and a lot of their beliefs are so similar for them to hate each other so much. It's interesting. I mean, I understand where that hate comes from, but they are so similar in regards to a lot of their traditions and all that. It's interesting.
Cheryl, I did a little research too, and came up with, I just realized that there was still America. There's actually 874 of them in 2003. They have their own high priests.
Oh, they're still practicing.
Yeah.
Okay.
the problem that they have is there are 5 families, basically, and they've intermarried so much that now there's genetic issues. So they've encouraged some of the men to marry outside the religion. But in order to do that, most women don't wanna go to the restrictions that they put on them. And so, this one scholar said that probably within the next 100 years, there will be no experiments.
Interesting.
Where did they live?
They still live in the area, but next to, yeah, they still live in that area. And because they consider that the holiest place, they stay there. And, but I thought it was interesting, there's still Samaritans out there.
That is interesting. That's very interesting. So, sacred encounter. Again, they did not ask particularly to be cured, but they asked for mercy. And Christ sent them to the priest to be inspected by them, who would judge the leprosy and give them their little certificate or whatever, to state that they'd been cured. So Christ is following the traditions in regards to that, and that tradition comes from Leviticus 13. If you ever want to look that up as to what you should do. A common misfortune had broken down the racial and national barriers. In the common tragedy of their leprosy, they had forgotten they were Jews and Samaritans and remembered only that they were men in need. I found that one of the commentators talked about that these 9 Jews were hanging out with the Samaritan, because basically they had a common woe, and sometimes it does take common woes. Think about when at 9/11, how many of our dissensions and divisions basically melted away in regards to having a common woe. So sometimes having a common enemy will bring people together. Say that again? A support group, yes. So the lepers came to Jesus with desperate longing. He cured them, and 9 never came back to give thanks. So often, once we get what we want, we forget where it came from. We forget to be grateful. But one does return. So all 10 of them were outcasts, but one does return, and we know that it was a Samaritan, the one who is most despised by the Jewish people. But he glorifies God and proclaims that Jesus is God in flesh, responding to the presence of God in Jesus Christ. So instead of going as he was told, I'm wondering if these 9 are just, rule followers. You tell me what to do, and this is what I do, and I don't think about going back. But anyway, so this one comes back, and instead of being going to the priest, he is declared clean. And so he's discharged from his confinement, which with all the rest aimed at, he turned back towards him, who was the author of his cure. So he remembered where to be grateful, whom he wished to give glory. And as we talked about, we're talking about the Samaritan who returned after the 10 lepers were healed. And he was loud and obnoxious about stating that God cured him. And Luke made a point of this. And as I was going through this lesson, I was thinking about how COVID gave us a slight understanding of what the lepers probably experienced in regards to isolation, and what we learned from that. How hard that can be to be isolated. I do know that the mental illness spiked because of all the depression that occurred with the isolation. So you can imagine the depression that these lepers were experiencing at the time. So then, with the transformative experience, there was an extra healing for this 10th leper. So you think about it, these 9 that didn't, they went and they obeyed the rules, they went to the priest and they were healed physically. But this one comes back and Christ says, your faith has made you whole. And so he gets, as Joe talked about yesterday, he gets cleaned on the inside as well as the outside. The rest had their cure and it had not been revoked, but as justly for their, the faith made this one Samaritan whole in compassion to their distress and in answer to their prayer. But the Samaritan was made whole by faith, by which Jesus Christ saw him distinguished from the rest, since he did come back. Temporal mercies are then doubled and sweetened to us when they are fetched in by prayers of faith and returned by the praises of faith. So equal compassion. Jesus showed equal compassion to all of them, the Jews and the Samaritans alike, the lepers and the healed alike. Jesus showed equal compassion. But there's been, as we talked about, there's been a conflict between the Samaritans and Jews for centuries, but Jesus still reached out to this one and said, your faith has made you heal. How could we embody the love of Christ and overcome our prejudices and embrace others? This is why I've asked Clyde to come. Today, I thought we're talking about people that are different than us, how easily it is to isolate them. And we have a task force that is led by Clyde, and I wanted him to tell us more about it. Absolutely.
How are you all doing this morning?
Good.
Well, thank you all for having me here. Yes, it is cold. I hope you all had a great New Year and great holiday.
Go make it a little higher for you.
Thank you. Out of curiosity, were any of you here over the holidays for the Christmas service?
Yes.
Outstanding, outstanding. Now, our beloved Pastor Joe Evans, during the beginning and the ends of those, he let everybody know that they belonged here. Belonging is the end of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Once we accomplish those things, the thing that makes those people that we've impacted stay is the fact that they belong. And I would like to let you all know that I appreciate you for being here. You're in the right place and you belong. Again, my name is Clyde Grant. My wife is Adrienne Grant. She is over the PDO program that has been doing so well here at the church. And we have been included in the church for about 10 years. Actual members for me, about 3. For her, probably more like 5 or 6 because I was in the military, I was overseas, so I couldn't do it until I got back. One of the things that attracted me to FPC was their ability to accept and include my family while I was not. Most men, when you walk into a situation, people usually come to you, they extend things to you, and then your family finds out about it through you. So for me to not be here and for a community of people to see my wife with children and to openly accept and inquire and care about them. And I heard about this place a day before she would actually say it, technically, since Japan is like one day ahead. But yeah, I heard so much, and once I came back and I saw how much they impacted my family, family is the biggest thing to be able to own a child on. So I just felt at home, and I felt like I belonged, and then I met the leadership, and I knew I belonged here. Some things that the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Task Force are doing is that we are focusing right now on equity, and we are focusing on education and training. Most things that happen through diversity, equity, and inclusion, it happens on a corporate scale. If anybody's heard of DEI, you hear about it on a corporate scale, and it's how to make workforces more inclusionary. And these things usually cause big rifts. And what I first want to say is the education and training that we will be pushing out from here will be on a spiritual basis. We have leaders and affiliates at other Presbyterian churches, like Dr. Yu, who goes to church over in Decatur, and he's also an instructor at seminary. He wrote several books about diversity, equity, and inclusion. So correct, you, Y-O-O.
Oh, he's been here.
Correct, yeah. So he is familiar with us. He is now familiar with several new names and several new faces. We also have Nancy Tatlaw, who is amazing. I'm sure everybody knows she is well versed in a lot of diversity. She's well seasoned. I think I talk to her like 2 or 3 times a week on how to not be so impulsive and not force changes upon people. We have to change, or not necessarily change, but we have to educate and train people how to accept other people before we change the space. I think that this is important so that it's more sincere to a person and making them belong when the people are open to different types of people. One of the other things that we are working on, there is a symposium that's going to be happening that Dr. Yu will be speaking at. We have several people from our diversity task force that will be going and bringing back notes. Dr. Yu will be joining us for educational and training purposes later on in the year, and that date is TBD, because he is an educator and he's fairly famous, so we have to accommodate his schedule. I also would like to implore everyone that when they think about diversity, the first thing we usually think about is race, how people look, because it's the easiest thing to look at. But there are some other things going on with diversity that we are working on, things that will impact the disabled and the able-bodied, making things more accessible for people. If you like to look right here, this is an enlarged print. I'm sorry, I haven't lost it. Hymnal, thank you, Shirley. This is an enlarged print hymnal. Now, most people would not think of this as a tool of diversity, but in terms of able-bodied versus disabled-bodied, this is very important.
Those who can't read small print understand that quick.
Absolutely. And I did not think that I would need it, but after looking at it and for singing all throughout the holidays, I probably will have one of these on my, it just felt better. But right now, before I could talk all day about this, because it's very passionate and it means a lot to me. But right now, you guys invited me here. I'd like to field any questions that you may have.
Well, I have one question. You talk about education and you did mention about not sticking with only ethnicity. What about mental illness? That's something that y'all are looking at?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. So when you talk about mental illnesses,
A lot of times, I just think about that, especially being so close to downtown Marietta. A lot of the homeless are probably mentally ill, and several of them that come into our church that wander in, at least the ones that I have encountered, have a lot of mental illness, and it does scare me. And I just think that education would assist us in being able to be more open.
So education, that is a great question and a great statement. Thank you so much for asking that. When it comes to mentally disabled persons, there's a strategy when you run into one. And while DE&I would love to take the head on something like that, since it is a safety issue, we start with safety on how they identify. And then everything from there will require a collaborative effort. And we have not gotten there yet, but
That's a lot of.
that is outstanding foresight, and thank you. And that is a note that we will take to the Master Task Force. Thank you so much. Anybody else have anything? Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So Thank you for that question. That is also a great question. Our specific task force is primarily directed towards FPC Marietta. However, there are multiple diversity task force throughout the Presbyterian period. As a matter of fact, I was doing a little bit of reading this morning, and Presbyterian Women, the national group of it, they have a diversity task force. And they also offer a lot of great information on their website about how we can be more inclusive and how we can provide equity to our members. So that if you guys have not checked that out, they have a plethora of information there as well. Hey, Sandy is amazing. She's also on our task force. I would like to share that.
And it means tonight, the subject tonight about, one of the women who's African American. That are the cells that have been used to cure cancer and everything else. And she was never asked if she could be, if her family was never asked if they could give it. They just sort of, that was John Hopkins that night. So a lot of the things that we are reading as Presbyterian women nationwide, this is not a Presbyterian, are on issues that have to do with the and including.
And it is. I would like to tell some of you that it can be overwhelming to look into it. It can be overwhelming to think of places that seem so near and dear to heart undergoing changes. But in the eyes, God, I feel like everyone should have a safe space. Regardless of what you experience in society, I feel like everyone should have a safe space. Jesus never spoke through the people that were at the top. He always spoke through the lepers, sinners. And these people need safe spaces. Everybody needs a safe space. I'm not labeling anyone. I'm simply stating that everyone needs a safe space to escape from society. And here, I feel could help heal other people that are going dark, tough times. So have I experienced a lot of resistance? Absolutely not. I have done a lot of explaining. But it's never resistance. If you a track star never complains about how high the hurdle is, just finds a way to get up. So you explain, we explain, I explain, we change the hearts and minds of people, we prepare the space, we get people here. We let our amazing pastor shepherd them as he shepherds us.
Is there anything that PW specifically could do to assist the pastor?
Stand by. Be
Okay.
ready.
Well, no, we're here.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
We're
Thank you so much. And I appreciate you all for having me. This is my first time being invited to speak at anything, so thank you guys for having me.